Who's first on BBC One with Peter Sissons.
As Zaire's rival leaders haggle over the future, another tragedy has afflicted the refugees trying to get out. 100 of them, sick, weak and desperate, have been trampled and crushed to death in an overcrowded train. Peter Mandelson, Labour's campaign manager, is rewarded with one of the most powerful jobs in government outside the cabinet. And the ultimate triumph of mind over machine. Chess champion beats the world's most powerful computer. Good evening. 100 Hutu refugees have been killed. Here, Tony Blair has rewarded the man who masterminded Labour's election campaign with a key role in the new Labour government. Peter Mandelson, the MP for Hartlepool, gets a wide-ranging job outside the cabinet, created specially for him. Known formally as Minister Without Portfolio, he'll focus on how government policy is implemented and presented. Mr. Mandelson's appointment was one of a number of middle-ranking ministerial jobs announced today. Our political editor, Robin Oakley, reports.
Finding time for the children may get harder, but Downing Street has adapted to a younger Prime Minister. The Blairs were taken to their local church today in a family-sized Ford Galaxy. But while it was worship and family time this morning, Mr. Blair spent most of the rest of the day on the phone at home, putting together his government team. One key appointment is that of Peter Mandelson, one of the chief architects of Labour's election victory and a close confidant of Mr. Blair, as Minister Without Portfolio. Based at the Cabinet Office, his role will be progress chasing across all government departments and helping to present the government's case.
Every minister in this government has one job, one duty, one commitment, and that is to implement the party's manifesto on which we've been elected. And I'll be doing that, I'll be assisting in that in my job in the Cabinet Office.
Industrialist Geoffrey Robinson comes back to the Labour front bench after a 10-year absence. As Paymaster General at the Treasury, he'll look after public-private finance projects. Helen Liddell, a former secretary of the Scottish Labour Party, who succeeded the late Labour leader John Smith in his parliamentary seat, also joins the Treasury team. The new Minister for Europe is Doug Henderson, seen here leaving Mr. Blair's home tonight with Foreign Secretary Robin Cook. One minister who has had time to get the feel of his office is Deputy Prime Minister John Prescott. Earlier, he underlined the challenges ahead in a Blair administration.
He'll have as much effect on the British political life as he's had in the Labour Party in the last 2 or 3 years. And quite frankly, it may well be a bumpy ride, but I'm looking forward to it.
The comings and goings of a new administration continued in Downing Street. But preening in front of the photographers, one resident under the previous administration is, it seems, happy now to change his loyalties. Humphrey the cat is staying on. As Mr. Blair continues putting his team together, Tessa Jowell, a close ally, is among those soon to be confirmed as a Minister of State. There'll be a junior job too for former Tory Minister Alan Howarth, now a Labour MP. Those expected to become middle-rank ministers include Ian McCartney, who'll have special responsibility for the minimum wage, John Reid at Defence, Stephen Byers, Henry McLeish and Brian Wilson. But as ever, government forming is taking longer than expected. For some, it's been a long night poised by the telephone. Robin Oakley, BBC News, Westminster.
A Eurosceptic candidate has emerged to stand against the pro-European Kenneth Clarke for the leadership of the Tory party. The former Social Security Secretary, Peter Lilley, says he's had an avalanche of calls supporting his bid. And he's already highlighted the continuing conflict in the party over Europe by criticising as unrealistic Mr. Clarke's offer of a free vote for MPs on major European issues. Our political correspondent Carole Walker reports.
Conservative central office was virtually deserted after the weeks of frenetic activity. Many in the party now acknowledge that the manoeuvring to succeed John Major before the election was even decided contributed to their defeat. The leadership contenders took their campaigns to the television studios today. The former Social Security Secretary declared he'd be standing, firmly committed to opposing any Labour move to join a single European currency and expecting Conservative MPs to toe that line in any parliamentary votes.
The idea that we could all just say it's a free vote and Her Majesty's opposition had no view on it isn't really realistic. And in practice, as I say, I think the party will be far more united in opposition to that.
In marked contrast, the only other candidate to declare so far, the pro-European former Chancellor, said free votes on all major European questions were the only way to end what he called the ridiculous permanent war between competing factions within the party.
There must be an understanding that there is a free vote on big, critical European issues. And the party, if it could accept that, can certainly spend its first few years in opposition putting that on one side.
I think we might...
John Redwood, the former Welsh secretary who challenged John Major for the leadership less than 2 years ago, is also likely to run. He's still considering the question of free votes, but denied the contest was all about Europe.
A leader of the party has to show the party a vision of how we succeed. And just talking about Europe is not going to guarantee us future victory, whatever the decision on the individual details of our European policy. I think there are a lot of votes to be won back on health and education.
Michael Heseltine's wife Anne, who yesterday confirmed the former Deputy Prime Minister would not be standing, visited him in hospital today. Mr Heseltine is said to be in good spirits, but bored rigid, undergoing a series of routine tests after an attack of angina. Other former ministers are expected to join the contest in the next few days. Reuniting the party will be their common campaign message, but it's hard to see how they can avoid laying bare the deep divisions in the party over Europe, and how the winner can then persuade the rival players to form a united team. Carole Walker, BBC News, Westminster.
There's been a major leak